What's up guys, I'm Brad, this is Despite Fitness, and I'm coming to you with a video that I think will be pretty quick. We're going to talk about the INNSTAR PR Power Belt. The folks at INNSTAR were kind enough to reach out to me via Instagram, asked me if I'd be willing to check out the belt and test it out and make a video and give my thoughts on it. So that's what this video is going to be. I've done a little bit of lifting with it, I've done some squatting. Today I'm going to do some deadlift, so getting up into a little bit of a heavier deadlift ladder. I don't know exactly what I'm going to get up to, but I'm going to goof around, and I'm going to use the INNSTAR PR Power Belt and see what I think of it. And then on the back side here, we'll give some review, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly. On the front, I do want to say that I'm pretty excited about this belt. I think it's an interesting concept. It has this kind of a ratchet strap component to it. So if I want to let it go, I just push this little button here and it just comes right out. So opens the belt up like that. Now, one thing to point out that the folks at INNSTAR told me about, as you can see here, this little piece, the mechanism where the belt goes into. Because this strap has this little lip, they don't recommend that you go all the way through. They only recommend that you go slightly and just like that, and then ratchet from there. So as you can see, the mechanism works like that. The one downside I would say to that is that it can take a little while to get the appropriate tightness, right? So if you're trying to move quickly, doing it that way is a little bit slower, but it makes sure that the quick release works, because if you put it all the way through like this and pull it all the way through, you can get it much tighter faster, because you can pull that slack out and then just push it through the other side here, right? And then once you feel like it's kind of sort of tight enough, you can start ratcheting it from there, and it saves you a lot of the ratcheting. However, if you do the quick release and you try to pull, sometimes that little tab gets snagged and it doesn't come out, right? So that's something to consider. That little tab gets snagged. There's probably things that you could do. You could trim that little tag off. You know, you could probably cut that and just burn it so that it stays flush and it quick releases. Although, you know, if you cut it, you run the risk of having it fray, or, you know, things kind of going wrong with it. Because this is nylon, you could cut it and then burn it, so you get a nice solid edge to it. But even over time, that may break and start to fray. So just something to consider. They do recommend that you don't go all the way through like I just demonstrated. They recommend that you just put the little tip through. It's kind of up to you and how you see fit, what you think is best. But just so you know, that's in my upfront work, I found that, you know, trying to ratchet all the way is kind of tedious to get those little turns, versus pull it through to where it's already kind of like belt tight, and then ratchet it in from there. It dials in really quickly. Just food for thought. All right, hey, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna start getting warmed up and doing some pulling. I'm gonna use the belt today, and then we'll talk on the backside of what I think. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you on the backside.
All right, it's important to note that how I like to wear the belt is not the recommended way. What I'm showing you here is the recommended way to wear the belt, where I just insert the end of the webbing into the ratchet portion and ratchet this way. As you can see, it takes a little bit of time to get all the slack of the webbing out, and for that reason I prefer not to do it the recommended way. So just understand how you see me wear it other ways is the non-recommended way, and you'll see an example of me doing that here after this lift. And now, to contrast, this way is the not recommended way. INNSTAR has pointed out, actually seen my clip and pointed out that I was wearing it incorrectly. But the reason that I was wearing it incorrectly is because I like how much quicker I can get this belt adjusted in terms of like tightness for what I'm looking for by pulling that slack through. By me manually pulling that extra webbing, the slack of the webbing through, I'm doing the work of what the ratchet was the first time around, where it took me so many ratchets to get that belt tight. Now I've already got that belt tightened the way I wanted it, in that, much less ratcheting action on my part.
Alright guys, that's it, that's the video. I came here to kind of test out and talk about the INNSTAR PR belt, and that's this guy right here. So, talk about a couple of facets of this belt. It is made out of genuine cowhide leather. It's 13mm belt, 10cm width. The belt is very heavily constructed. Stitching is great. It is a suede that's on the inside, and the hardware on this is pretty robust. I don't think it's something that's going to break very easily. So definitely very good hardware. I like the feeling of this belt. Being able to get up to a 715 deadlift today with it, it felt great. One of the things that I think is really nice about this belt is it's down to the millimeter tightness. So I think that is something that this belt has advantage over other belts, whether it be a prong belt or a typical lever belt, because how tight you can get those belts is usually set by where the holes are, and you can't get in between tightness on like a prong belt. Same thing with a lever belt. It's really set to whatever adjustment, right? So there are adjustments, but it's not down to the millimeter specific tightness. With this one, you really can adjust and vary the tightness of the belt depending on what you're doing. So for me, I tend to wear, when I'm deadlifting, I tend to wear the belt a little bit higher up on my sternum versus a little bit lower on my abdomen, and that will change the level of tightness. So I think that being able to be very specific with the tightness is something that is very advantageous over other belts. I'm a big fan of the belt. INNSTAR does recommend that the first couple times you wear this, as you break it in, to not wear light colored shirts, white, things like that, because it could stain. So until you break into the belt a little bit, maybe wear it with a black or dark colored shirt so you don't stain your shirts. But this was a lot of fun to use and wear. It is definitely something that I would recommend for an average user. Now, a couple of precautions that I will throw in on this belt, right? Things that I did notice that I want to say. So first off, because of the mechanism up here, it can get in the way. So because I'm a fairly deep squatter and because I'm a fairly bigger guy, when I lean forward, my abdomen nearly touches my legs. So if I have the hardware off center, I found that in squatting and in deadlifting, it can dig into my legs. So for me, I just had to make sure that it was center line, and that was fine. So that problem wasn't much of a problem. I did notice a little bit of pinching when I start to get the belt into, you know, real tight on my body. As that mechanism is ratcheting and this part, this excess is starting to work its way around my body, because the belt itself is much tighter, it has less and less room. So I do find a little bit of pinching. So you know, just something to be cautious of. I don't think it's anything that would cause me not to use this belt, but if you're not careful, it definitely can pinch the skin, so you got to be careful with that. And then the other thing that I'll point out is that although I'm a huge fan of this belt, if you are into powerlifting as a competitor, this may not be a belt for you, simply because most of the federations have approved equipment lists. And I haven't done the research to see if INNSTAR is on approved equipment list for whatever federation, but in all likelihood, it may not appear on your federation. So if this would be a belt that you are interested in and you are a competitive powerlifter, be sure to check your federation's approved equipment list and see what belts are allowed, because certain federations only allow certain equipment in their meets. So if you were to buy this belt thinking that you could use it in competition, you may be in for a surprise when you find out that it's not on that approved list. But aside from that, if you are not a competitive powerlifter, I think that this is a really, really great belt to pick up as a general purpose training belt, or you know, you do powerlifting in your garage, or you know, you do heavy lifting, but maybe you're not worried about getting into a federation. The only other thing that I would have as a basis of comparison is the only other belt that I've ever used, which is the INNSTAR Forever belt. I am a huge fan of the INNSTAR Forever belt. This has been a belt that I've been using essentially my entire career, and the belt that, you know, the very belt that my dad used when he competed when I was a little kid. This one, of course, is not the same one. It's bigger, but I grew up with a belt just like this when I was younger that my dad used. So INNSTAR has been a brand that I've been very, very loyal to for a long time, and I will say that I do think the INNSTAR stacks up in terms of utility and usability against my INNSTAR. This will probably become my general purpose training belt going forward, just because I do so enjoy the ability to get that very specific tightness for what I'm doing. Whereas with my Forever belt, I'm constrained by where the holes are drilled. So aside from that, that's really all that I have to say on the belt. I think that it's a phenomenal belt. I'm going to leave a link in the description box below for my Amazon store page. I have the belt in my store, so if you want to go there and check it out and take a look at it on Amazon, you're more than welcome to. If you guys have any questions or comments about this belt, I know that some people said it looks kind of like an SBD knockoff, and I think that the colorway being what it is, the black on red, it could leave you with that impression. And although I've never touched the SBD, like I'm a fan of this belt. Even if it looks very similar to that SBD, I think it's a very clean, very sleek looking belt, and I'm happy to have it. Like I said, questions, comments, concerns, drop the chat box below. I will respond. I want to thank you guys for the continued support of the channel, and I want to thank my friends at INNSTAR for sending me the belt, giving me an opportunity to test it out and talk about it. I have enjoyed this, and I will continue to enjoy it for some time. With that being said, guys, remember, no matter what it is you think you can't do, like, you know, compare and contrast different equipment to try to make the most out of your training sessions. It's never going to happen if you don't get in and train despite. You're either going to find an excuse, you're going to find a way, and I hope that you guys continue to find a way. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.